Good morning, guys. Hope you're all well and having a fine weekend. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. We are going back in time. How do you feel about that? Victorian era, maybe?
Maybe.
Right, to do that, we've got to find a unique and special tunnel, which we've got to go through. But then it's down to you guys to use your imagination and magic before we start, so we can transfer from where we are in present day back in time to maybe the turn of the century. So let's go and do this. Pretty much any old tunnel would do, but we chose this one specifically because it is an old towpath tunnel, and I believe they used it for access for your cattle, sheep, etc. to move around. But it should be quite tight, narrow, and fit the bill perfectly for what I'm attempting to do. In the distance beyond that bridge, you're going to have Wolverton. That'll be the secret garden the other side as well, which has got a lot of sort of sculptures, painting works, a lot done by Bill Billings, who was a famous sculptor and artist in the area, now sadly no longer with us. And this is the entrance to the tunnel. Now what I need you guys to do is to close your eyes. Once we're in there, I'll tell you, count down from 3, 2, 1, and we'll be back in a possible Victorian era. This could be fun. Hopefully you won't get too wet. Anyway guys, close your eyes and count down now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, reopen your eyes and welcome to a Victorian era. A bygone era, looking at the drinks. I would nowadays predominantly go for probably Bud Light. Back in the day it would have been Foster's, Castlemaine X, Kronenberg, even Stella. But don't frequent the pubs nowadays. Shorts wise or spirits, it would be a Jaeger bomb modern day. Back in the day probably a dark rum with Coke. Never been keen on whiskey. Didn't mind a Jack Daniels. Rachel was more of your coconut flavour rum, your Malibu. Sometimes Bacardi, possibly. By all accounts, you can phone the store from here as well. Back in the day, your father used to turn around and say what he could buy for £1. It'd be the likes of Levi 501s, your chocolate bars, etc. Go out for a week, fill up the tank of fuel. Me, I can't remember that pretty much. It was going along, and for probably the price of £20, I remember, as opposed to £1. Back in the day, for £20, I could go to a football match. So with that, it would be the train fare, a pint before I went into the ground. Getting into the ground was £4. A programme was 50p. You would get what they called a double or a triple burger, which I'd have at half time. At the end of the game I would have another burger, funnily enough. Then I'd have another pint and get the train home. I'd be able to do that and still have change from the £20 note. That's where things have changed nowadays, is that you cannot do that anymore. The price has gone through the roof. Now I probably couldn't even buy 3 or 4 points and have change of a £20 note. Into one of your traditional old stores. Stuff gone by the wayside nowadays, but you can still see some of the household names like Bisto. Certainly not like that anymore. It's more in a little glass pot with a little foil your puncher to get your contents out. Your custards at the top there. Your bottles, which would have held probably a version of Coke, certainly not Coca-Cola, maybe De La Cola back in the day. Syrups, your flours, your sugars, your old cigarette packets from yesteryear. Now, I mean, one of the things that you do remember, I've seen me around here, there you go, in the corner there, the old pipes. You don't see many of them about nowadays. We seem to be going back to an era now with vaping, so it's sort of the same concept. you put your contents, your vape into there and you suck it through, whereas back in the day with smoking through a pipe, you would have put your tobacco in the end, lit it, and you would have just had a few puffs. And then obviously your roll-ups and your cigarettes took preference after that. Some of the old household names. You still got Fry's chocolate now. Obviously Roundtree's more of sweets now than they were then. Cadbury's obviously huge. But look at that. See, that's pre-decimalisation. That sort of goes past 1971. I was born in 71 when they changed to pounds and pence. Before that it was bob, shillings, sixpence, etc. Here we have a bygone chemist. Certainly not what they used to be. So you've got the old sponges up there. They're actual real sponges from the bottom of the ocean, not your little sort of fake polyester ones you get. And some of your remedies, your medicines. Price of prescriptions nowadays are ridiculous. I can't remember what they were for me growing up. Maybe about £1, maybe £2. Now it's past, I think, a tenner. Don't get many babies to £1 nowadays. Cox and Robinson, a familiar household name. Now these I always remember and associate with the chemist with these jars that are filled up with your red, your blue or your green liquids. Thermos flasks at the top there. I mean, for myself nowadays, I've obviously got this issue where I have my gabapentin with the issue with my spinal cord and my nervous system. It's that and the Proxin I'm taking. And hopefully at some point there'll be either an operation or a way out of it. Going back by your memory, what do you remember the price of a stamp being? Nowadays it's past maybe 20p. I remember them as maybe 7p or 9p for a stamp. And that's when you used to get a proper first and a second class. First class deliveries in the morning and second class in the afternoon.
Sorry.
Your bygone era with your clothing. Now this, sort of looking at it, reminds me of times of like your Downton Abbey or maybe Titanic. The ways with the corsetries, all the elegance of the gloves, the bonnets, etc. Stuff you do not see nowadays. A lot of the stuff nowadays is either polyester or fake fabrics. A lot of them would have been natural, sort of cottons and silks. Feels as if we've stepped back in time to an era of Jack the Ripper. It's all kidneys and livers, etc. Very sort of, very screamish, I suppose you could say. Now pies, I am a lover of a pie, but that is sort of, that would have been probably steak and kidney. I do not do kidneys at all. Don't mind a meat and potato pie. Your pucker pies, I do love either the steak and potato again, chicken and mushroom, or a balti pie, something that come to fruition in probably the 90s with the football era. Your foods of yesteryear, they're sort of pretty much the same. You got mince, you got ribs, you got chops, but then you got your things like your trotters, and you have tripe, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Obviously your sausages, and this is how it all been done, all weighed by hand. If anyone remembers the old deli counters, you like your Sainsbury's, you put your ham in, you slice along, and you get your pack in your grease-proof paper. None of your pre-processed packed stuff back then. Sausages hanging up, possibly back pudding. And this just looks like some sort of medieval torture chamber. sort of axe used in the medieval era, should I say, just to decapitate someone. Reminds me of old Arkwright, open all hours. I have to admit, I've never seen anyone doing deliveries of groceries on a push bike in my era. And I'm Generation X, so that goes 70s to present day. Anyone remember these old vending machines? It used to be more prevalent around bus or train stations. Polo wasn't as common as your chocolate bar ones. They do have some of them over here, I can show you. See, these are your chocolate ones. I do remember fruit and nut. Although they've got cigarettes in them, that was what a Cadbury's one would look like. And you can see they've got the old candy bits in there, but they're actually full of cigarettes. But they were small little chocolate bars. Put your money in, pull out the drawer, and that's how you get it. Obviously the old chewing gum, you'd take a week to chew it before you'd even break through the first layer. Certainly not my fashion era. I'm more of your baseball cap type, and probably jeans or jog jeans, joggers themselves, shorts, etc. That's very much the way my grandfather would have dressed. Loved his trilby hat, the old flat caps. In amongst your old cinematography, your cinema equipment, some of the old movies. Now, for myself, best film of all time for me, back in 1975, the big old shark, the great white known as Jaws, is my favourite of all time. I have a love of your sci-fi movies, so your original Star Wars trilogy, then going into the 80s, your Back to the Future, your Indiana Jones, etc. And that clock is from the old Bletchley Cinema, and that is where I would have seen a lot of my movies back in the day. Before then, the likes of your Star Wars, I see them at the Elephant and Castle in London, and the Empire Strikes Back at Leicester Square. Some of these are serious collector's items nowadays. That is one of your old organ grinders. You've got a little drum there that plays, and your musical box where you wind the handle, feeds that through, and that's where your tune comes from. And back into an even bygone era before that, you would have had a monkey dancing on top of it. This reminds me, should I say, of your old Pollards type ironmongers. You've got the smell in it of nails, metal, wood, etc. Some fantastic collector's items in here. It's about now I want to be asking for 4 candles. If anyone remembers the old 2 Ronnie sketch. And ironically, have a look there. Some of your bygone shops that no longer exist. And it was always synonymous with someone wearing a brown or olive coloured overalls or jacket. Unfortunately, it comes to us all. And that is your bygone era hearse. This doesn't really take me back. This is well before my era, although these desks that you see around, there was some in my junior school. Junior school for me, Lakes Comprehensive or Lakes County Middle School, it now become Drayton Manor. They were good times. Before that, the primary school, that was when your learning was fun. It just got a bit too overzealous, overcomplicated as you went up to the more senior school, the likes of Leon. Many people throughout the country would have found that you went there and your friends are all dispersed. What you grew up with, those you had fun with and interacted with in your junior school, everyone was put into different classes, and it made it extremely difficult because the fun was taken away and people already had their own little groups, and I was more of what you'd call like the TV series and in-betweener. So I wasn't popular right at the top of the chain, wasn't one of the ones that was picked on, thankfully, at the bottom. There always seemed to be synonymous with that period, maybe a dozen people that were extremely popular, and the trends would follow them. So they would wear the likes of a Benetton top, so everyone had to have a Benetton top. Everyone had to have kicker shoes, everyone had to have a Campri ski jacket, and so on. It was just the way things were. I remember back in junior school, one of the first lads turning up had the first ever pair of Nike trainers, and then everyone just had a pair. Before that there was a few pairs of Adidas, but in our era it was either high-tech or Dunlop, to be honest with you. And there we have your abacus. I suppose back in the era you would have been called up the class, you'd have to write on the board, do your equations, work something out, put the fear of God into you. Thankfully we're an era past all this lot. You had the cane, and what they are, is that something that a child would have played with, or looks like a knuckle duster. School belt. And that's what people used to write with, quills. So they'd dip that in ink and then done your writing. But before that it was like tablets, which I suppose where the modern term tablet comes from, because you've got your computer screen there now on either your phone or your iPad. But before then it was chalk on a chalkboard. That was an original tablet. And there's an organ or a piano there. Have you been bad, Rachel? Yeah, you're at the back of the class again? Yeah. Like the rest of us? Yeah. An old car reminding us of some of the cars that I never used to have. Mine were predominantly Ford Escorts back in the day. Now you had a Nova. Didn't start with a Nova. What did you have first? Was it a Metro?
Metro, I had a Mini Metro.
Mini Metro first, then you had
a Nova.
Then Corsa. And then it was the... Is it one we got? Was it a Mariva?
Yeah, no, I had...
You had some other ones in between.
But not for very long, and then it was the Mariva.
Yeah, I think all in told I've probably had about 8 Ford Escorts of different types. One of my favourites was the XR3, which was a jet black one, but the favourite one, which I think myself and Rachel liked.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day, the XR3i.
The XR3, the white one. It was just all pure
drive.
White.
That was a really lovely drive.
It was all done up like RS Turbo, full body kit, whale tail, etc. And what did it have written on the back?
I don't know.
Was it Passion, Bass and Serious Grace? It had a big bass tube in the back of it, and yeah, and then between that I had Vectras and Cortinas and Escort Lands, and also had the Mystery Machine, a big 5.8 litre V6 V8 American, and it would go through a house. Classic bike alert. Now I only ever had the one road bike, which was a TS125, which I had in 1989. That said bike threw me over the handlebars and dragged me down the road, taking off my right knee, the top of my right knee, like a bacon slicer. Okay, back to present day. Anyway guys, thanks for joining us. I hope the experience was good for you as it was for us. We've had a pretty cool day, haven't we?
We have indeed.
Anyway, we will see you in the movies. Next week's Easter, so I think Rachel's working Good Friday, so I'll probably go out and do an urbex, something I found something to do with a haunted woods with some ruins. I'll probably look at that. Then I've got motocross on Monday. That'd be an interesting vlog, going back to that again. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hope it's a good one for you all. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. See you later.
Bye.
A future hidden path for a future exploration.